Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 117th episode of our first run through the House of Light expansion to Book of Hours, playing as the archaeologist, and just finishing the Salon for today with the unfortunate side effect that Lisa Lotta would have made use of Father Stanislav had he still been around. So let's actually set up an invitation for him. No, that won't do. Hopeless. I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Father Stanislav to Brandkrug. So lots of elements of the soul left over today. That's just kind of a function of the last minute planning or lack of planning that I had for the salon, but we'll have plenty of time to get through what we needed here. Now I just need to post it. We'll queue. So there may be a small catch in that the fact that I may not be able to bring him back this quickly, but I'd like to try. I mean, it's 1 pence, so it's not the end of the world if I lose it. So stamp, envelope, send. And we have a new room. Crucible Tower, the governor's quarters. In this room, the governor was Collars the artist, Collars the dreamer. It was a side of him that almost no one saw, especially when, after the death of his wife, he grew so much more solitary. That said, there is a connection to be drawn between his enthusiasm for sculpture and his ambitions for his human subjects. So quite a few things to investigate here. So we've got Lady Tryphon, a very old portrait in the Byzantine style. Armagnac D, or Yves. Armagnac can only come from Gascony, but if you believe Monsieur Courtin, his vineyard began with vine cuttings from Yves beyond the sea. Arsenic, a poison sometimes known as the message of the swan. Uncatalogued books, 3 nocturnal. The sculptor's bench, labor seriously. So this will accept stone, wood, woven remains, tool, and ductile. And then all of these accept ductile, is it? Nope. Woven. Gervinus van Loren. This bust is cast in highly polished bronze. And then 2 Curia books and our first Newman text. Towards a Fundamental Aesthetic, or The House of Glass. Julian Cosley considered this his masterwork. This book houses a Newman, a truth so powerful it can perhaps believe itself. And I do apologize, I just yanked out my headphone. I just need a minute to... I think we're good. Yeah, there we go. I just need to... Whenever I plug it back in, it gives me an alert saying, did you mean to plug in headphones? And I'm like, I didn't mean to pull them out, if that's what you mean. Okay. While I'm actually on the desktop, I'm going to take a quick peek at the recipe list. I'm not quite ready to plan the next salon, but I am a little curious about a couple of details in terms of Schaller. Okay. Sorry for the silence. Almost done. I've been meaning to check out the various recipes that I haven't examined yet, but haven't quite gotten to that point yet. Now, I don't recall if I've committed glass blowing and vessel crafting yet. I don't seem to. So I'm a little tempted to read this sooner rather than later. But yes, the Newman is quite a powerful memory, and that will help me out with quite a few different rooms for me to investigate. Also, the librarian stool, a sea-colored, star-ornamented stool. Finally, Gervinus Van Loren. Now, if I recall correctly, let me just double-check that I've got the book. Oh, do I not have letters to my successor yet? I'm trying to remember. Gervinus is the librarian who comes before us. But I'm trying to remember if we actually know that in the game yet. I thought we had letters to my successor, but clearly we don't. So never mind. We'll just keep them there. All right, finally there's the Charred Chamber. So 14 Winter, also big lore. Maybe not lore, but it's quite an exciting revelation up here, so I might hold off for a little bit. Okay, so there's a few things that I want to get out of the way. One of them will be I'd like to try and invite Mr. Kill to come and clear out the Wormnod kitchen. I would like to get these various skills leveled up. So we'll definitely bring up Leaves and Thorns to its next level. So in this case, we'll need 3 Grail or Nectar memories. Quenchings and Quellings. I guess that one, we were still on the fence because I hadn't decided yet whether or not that would sort of be at the bottom of the list for the, like with the I think this is one that I would probably put in. Okay, so if I put it in Hushery, that would be a higher level one, but I actually think Hushery is already spoken for, if I'm not mistaken. So I have a few, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure I had some plans for like sights and sensations. Was it 7? I'm gonna feel like a real bonehead if I was working on a 7. I actually think I was gonna put one more in between. Yeah, I'm gonna hold back from committing those yet so far. The Purifications and Exaltations, I feel that those those are a real big question mark. Okay, so we'll work towards Leaves and Thorns for sure. The problem here is that I don't actually know I don't really have a game plan in terms of where this all goes. And I guess the Leaves and Thorns doesn't benefit from the memory that I took overnight either. Okay. So to avoid this complete paralysis, let me have a think about preservation. Oh. So preservation's got room for a 3. And if memory serves, there was... so Edicts Inviolable was 1 for preservation. Quenchings and Quellings was 1, which theoretically we're going to apply anyway. I guess Resurgences and Emergences is the only one that we've really made like a hard commitment for. So maybe what I'll do... I made a small list earlier on, like, so something like Hill and Hollow, I have books that I can sort of apply towards. So So maybe what I'll do here is I'll try and find... So Quenchings and Quellings would have been a good candidate to go into position 3, except that I now have something to potentially bump it up. So... But I don't remember if I put Magaphine Mysteries, I think, was one that I'm just looking at my notes here, so I think... Okay, so that's at 2, unfortunately. That would have been a good candidate, though. What else? I guess we're already moving Stitching and Binding. Well, then again, if Stitching and Binding is at level 3, maybe that solves the problem. We put Stitching and Binding at level 3, and then that opens up Quenchings and Quellings at level 4. Yeah, that'll be how we do it. Okay, so Quenchings and Quellings, we need Heart and Winter. So here's what we're going to do. We don't yet know what the story is with Mr. Kill. But here I think it's fair to say that we'll be working with a normal memory on this one. Well, potentially normal memory. So U blank is good for 1. So we go from 2 to 4, 5 with the tool. Okay, so we've got 6, and then I start doing the funny business. Actually, this one isn't a hard one. So if I do Solomon's Preparation again, so that gets me 4, that takes it up to 10, and then from there we just do the memory. And that gets me the 12 that I need. Okay, so that's generally good news, actually. So there's going to be a couple steps that I take to angle this in my favor. So we'll make the replacement. We obviously need to hire Mr. Kill in the first place. Mr. Kill likes conversations about endings. His wife prefers to talk about beginnings. A shilling will buy his help for a day. Let's do it. Now, what I want to be doing here, I will be generating some memories through Mr. Kill, but I want to try and generate some memories that will be relevant to some of the things I'm trying to advance. So the nectar, in fact, I'll maybe make leaves and thorns my first priority here. So that'll be for some nectar and some grail. So with that, we will do, we'll get the impulse. I'm trying to remember which of these I was working on before. Let's read the Beekeeper's Ends. I might be jumping the queue here, but... Now this will be one, as much as we're trying to avoid too many repeat listenings to Intimations of Skin, this is actually one that I need, so. But I don't think there are any other Grail memories that I can use that wouldn't be duplicates. So I'll get some gossip on this one. I don't even remember which one of these gives me gossip. Go. Okay, so that's Leaves and Thorns taken care of. Quenchings and Quellings has 3, so we want Heart and Winter out of that. We'll have 1 heart already. So just 2 more. Oop. Wish it worked that way, but I think I can do hindsight. One of these will go into Mr. Kill anyway. And then I can actually also go for salt. I'll settle for this for now. So the last step, and I didn't plan this out properly actually, would be to... It'd be to try and read the Cosley work. But I need to make sure that I'm connecting it with a high level of knock. So Grail doesn't help me here, but I think if I do Edict's Liminal... Oh, right, but I don't have a knock. Shucks. That was close, but... I think I will risk it. Yeah, I'll just use the occult scrap if I need it. And we get Shaller after all. Alright, and we've got a storm. That might... I mean, it's going to be inconvenient from a heart perspective, but... Can I do something with the Gaping Darkness and Mrs. Kill? So if we say Mrs. K... So she starts with 1 heart, core, good for 2, storm, good for 4, so that's 3, 7. Tools good for 1, which brings us up to 8. So that brings us to the classic problem of whether or not I want to give up a Ruby-wise Ruin. And the answer normally will be yes. But conditional on me making a new one. An offer from Oriflammes. Oriflammes established 1776, sent signed Sciences. Dear Librarian, we would like to offer you this opportunity to purchase the Songs of the Carapace Cross. Micah Z, sometimes called the Magus of Courts, etched this work in acid on stone. It has been reproduced many times in many languages since, but the reproductions are often lost to landslides. So, quite a costly one, but worth picking up. Alright, so, Mr. Kill, let's get to work. We're going to boost you right away. It's going to be a little bit of a funny day today, but I don't think I'm going to be unhappy with how it turns out. So, I'm committing myself to the path that we talked about before. I am going to just switch these around a little bit so that I can... Actually, the other thing I want to do is hunt down anything we've already committed. So eventually these things, like the 2s that have been committed should sort of wind up at the back. The 3s that have been committed should wind up at the back, and so on and so forth. So for instance, Stitching and Binding should be here because it won't move up any further. I don't want to like spend the time to completely reorganize this, but that was kind of the ideal, and I never really did actually organize it that way. Okay, let's take Furs and Feathers back. Stitching and Binding goes here. Leaves and Thorns, I suspect, will probably be moving up, but we won't do that quite yet. So, to heal. A deft enough binding might heal anything. Flesh, spirit, song, stone. That would be preservation. Stitching and Binding, nothing is entirely broken nor entirely whole, not so long as we have our needles. So another core for me to deal with. And this is on the expectation that the quenchings and quellings that we have will be leveled up. I have carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. I do want to catalog some... Well, we'll catalog them later. I should have enough metal. Yeah, we should basically be able to use all the metal towards that if I so choose. Oh, shame on me for not taking advantage of the sweet bones. Alright, my assistant and I will be prudent. So I'm just going to double check that I had this right for Mr. Kill, because I think I did have to use the U. Yeah, so it was a whist, a tool, and a U, but for now, let's just settle for the tool. I'm not 100% sure if I'm gonna have enough time to get through the Fundamentalist Act. This and a second book are actually quite fun to read. Stuff, also things, and an extra effort soul, so hopefully the thing will carry us through. The Beekeeper's Ends, dialogues with bees and uses for honey as erratically recorded by Ricardo Milagro, gardener of Hush House in Musgrave's time. Milagro spends an entire chapter on his hatred of wasps, which he describes as the vile pretenders. Milagro claims that bees retain many traditions passed down from earlier and greater branches of their species, but that they are fiercely jealous of these traditions being passed to lesser insects and insist above all on an oath of secrecy. Tragically, therefore, he is unable to describe the more substantial and powerful traditions. Intimations of Skin, fiendishly complex, weirdly distorted illustrations of Congress and anatomy by the haunted visionary painter Niels Fredrik Malsker. Malsker illuminates the evolutions of the names of the Grail with unfortunate clarity. It seems that a lovely who consumes an ivory becomes an ivory, a lovely who consumes a thirstly becomes a thirstly, a lovely who consumes a name of another hour might take its place. In the penultimate illustration, a lovely grapples with a fungoid knot that can only be a name to the name of the crowned growth. The lovely's mouth and other portals gape wide, and the growth name is already partially engulfed, but it seems that Malsker couldn't bring himself to illustrate the result, and the final illustration is only a scrawled, bloated obscurity. Three flowers hath the tree. Ernestine Peterhans records her observations of the grows of trees and flowers around the isle, and omens and portents she attempts to draw from them, particularly the yew tree in Earl Brian's meadow, whose flowerings are sometimes eccentric. Ernestine observes that in years when the tree flowers black, troubling secrets arrive. When it flowers red, war and fires follow, and that no de Wolf heir has ever been born in a year when it flowers white. Ernestine attempts to use the tree's growths to advantage in her business affairs, but it fails. She is evidently very concerned when Hendrik de Wolf's grandson, Giles, runs off with a pale trollop Hafren in a year when the tree flowers white. She begins to fear that she has entirely misinterpreted all the relevant omens. She is deeply concerned for the continuation of the de Wolf line and prays for Giles' return. Edery After, an anonymous erotic novel occasionally claimed to have been written by Ava de Wolf, although at least 2 duels were fought in her honor to avenge this slander. The novel graphically details Madame Edery's various imprisonments, ravishments, and escapes in the debauched Commonwealth of Tinctures and its neighbor, the Pious Atraman. It becomes apparent that many of Edery's lovers and pursuers, Catwink, Houndsgall, Niliki, are transparent allegories for inks, and that Edery is an embodiment of knowledge pinned to paper, to her mingled delight and dismay. The author only half commits to the metaphor, though, and is clearly at least as interested in titillation as revelation. So this one's a free agent right now. The Queen's Turn, a 16th century translation of the Barrowchild's account of Lagia's turn, when Lagia, the Queen unsated, was offered the opportunity to enter the service of the Hours of the Triple Knot as long as she repudiated her brother-lover Antaios. Lagia accepts, setting aside the arts of the Low Red Sun associated with Antaios. She bargains, however, for freedom for her daughters. The Hours of the Triple Knot accept casually, knowing that Lagia has devoured her daughters, but wily Lagia has decided, in the secret hollow of her heart, that she will adopt any who ask, if they can prove their fierceness. The traditions described here, the ones generally described as hill and hollow, are associated with Lagia before her turn, but now that she's a name of the Red Grail, they might also be safely used before an altar of the Triple Knot. Okay, So that one goes to quenchings and quellings. Just making sure. Yep. Finally, the Black Book of Brittany, a volume of ink lore gifted to St. Brendan's by Brian of Brittany, who was made Earl of Cornwall after the Norman Conquest. The black flower lies heavy, but the roots of the watchman's tree run deep, and they may not be hidden forever. The black flower, spoken of as a doom or guise, can be held at bay with the last ink of power, brewed from the pale mixture in the presence of sufficient winter with the arts of containment. Okay, so I'm going to do something a little unusual here. What I'd like to do is basically save the storm. So as a... so one step that I need to take would be to take the hollowed drum. Yeah, actually get the Thunderskins piano already. I probably don't even need the storm at this point, but we'll make do. Let's go level up Leaves and Thorns first. And I can afford... we'll do the health. So I will follow up with Schaller in just a moment. I will wait for stuff also things because it's only 10 seconds and I can use the Hush House key. This tool's boosted their aspects appropriately. Alright, let's give him the U now. I can offer my assistant any suitable timber I have laying around. Fiddle with something here. Increase the relevant aspects by using a thing. And here we go. With Keeper Level Winter, Solomon's preparations are a precursor to the Great Ink Nilicant. So I only have one whisk left, and I don't believe we've used that with... Oh no, we have used that with Mr. Kill now. So I may use the remaining whisk, but I don't think I'm quite at the point where I can say that for sure yet. Alright, quenchings and quellings. So we'll employ core in this case. Alright, we're actually looking... It looks like things are in pretty good shape. I know we'll have some remaining work to do with the glass blowing and vessel crafting that I get from this book, but I don't think that's enough to sort of hold the day back. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. It is winter and the storms have tightened the seas. I am sitting before the fire in the sweet bones with a beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. Alright. Where do I want to go next? I guess I should probably be using up these winter aspects. Let's use the hindsight just because there's a chance that that'll get generated on its own. Of course, I don't really have much... Well, okay, actually the lantern's helpful because if I do wind up using purifications and exaltations, which, by the way, I'm thinking I might... If I wind up using this for illumination... which I think it was metal. Yeah, so, or sorry, metal, ithistry. It's maybe not so obvious that that's the only thing that I can do. I don't know, like illumination's pretty open right now, so I'd be willing to entertain it. But what I think I should probably do is work out a little bit like I did with preservation. And, you know, basically get to that point where I say, okay, so we've got a couple of things where I know I'm ready to commit it to the Tree of Wisdoms. You know, let's actually start raising that floor. So again, there was a question as to whether or not I'd commit Edicts Inviolable. Well, now I have a good excuse to read, I think it was the 3 and the 3. And that's kind of how I'm going to handle that moving forward. I basically don't want to be like I was earlier on in the playthrough, or sort of paralyzed to read certain books because I wasn't sure where I wanted to commit things. If I find that I'm holding back on a book, what I'm going to do is to say, okay, so what do I think is the most likely candidate to commit to the Tree of Wisdoms? And then we'll use that as sort of the engine to move forward. So, before we finish, let's read Towards a Fundamental Aesthetic, or The House of Glass. Julian Cosley considered this his masterwork. Techniques for perception and analysis which permit invidious and apocalyptic conclusions. Probably the most assiduously suppressed book in history, the entire run was destroyed. Even the presses were melted and dispersed, but the manuscript edition has survived. The perfect hegemony of the hours is perhaps eternal, but Cosley proposes and describes confinement inescapable, aesthetic and optical techniques which might contain even an hour, profoundly disrupting the order of the Mansis. He presents this as his own work, but there are hints here and there that he received inspiration or even assistance from the nowhere hour named Snow. And this one, for those of you not familiar with Newman, these are very special memories in the game, so they also count as persistent memories. So, inescapable confinement. Everything ultimately comes down to a choice between eternity and history. There's only one place you're safe from both, and it's not a place anyone would want to be. It's a prison that can only exist in certain histories. Any librarian can use this to establish a history and complete the game, but the prodigal and the archaeologist, that's me, can win a particular victory. And of course, one of the big advantages for this is that it gives you a nice leg up in terms of any of the skills that you may need. So this is worth 5 knock, 5 scale, and 5 winter. So Newman, write a truth in a book that no one reads, then drop dead. No one knows what you wrote, unless the truth is Newman. Noumena are truths so powerful they tentatively believe themselves. You can use a Newman to write a new history at a suitable desk if you can assemble 25 of a matching aspect. I usually put these in the librarian's quarters. I don't know if I want to change the tradition. We'll keep it here for now, and then I'll maybe change it up if I so choose. All right, so that's it. Hang on, did I get the... Okay, yes, we got the key back. Okay, so I think we have a pretty clear idea in terms of how the rest of the day is going to go. I am going to sort things out with Father Stanislav John Schaller and Lieselotte. Of course, that gives me engagement. You all get to see how that turns out tomorrow. I will take some time to figure out where I'm going with my remaining memories, but after that, we'll have cleared out the salon and some of the extra things that we've uncovered. So from there, I think it's probably not a bad idea for me to start working through this list again and reading the books and trying to level up the various skills. Obviously, I want to. The next one is going to be the quenchings and quellings, but that's by no means the last of those moves I'm going to make. But of course, all of that will be happening in the future. So thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.